It's going. We are live. I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I have two special guests tonight with me. We have I Kilgore. Did I say that right? I think I did.
Ivan, yes,
Ivan. I'm sorry.
yes.
So Ivan was born and raised in Ivan was born and raised in Oklahoma. Today he currently spends 23 hours a day locked in a prison cell in North California. He is an accomplished author, lecturer, and advocate for human rights. His passion to write is driven by a need to survive, understand, and navigate the political, historical, and cultural uh, forces that operate to hold him captive, both physically and mentally, behind that wall. Thank you, Ivan, for joining us. Our second guest tonight is Joseph P. Langdon. Did I say that correct? All
Yes,
right.
indeed.
Joseph is the author of The Sandbox to the Cell Block, a memoir of his experiences from the streets to the 22 years spent in the state and federal system. He is the CEO of Langdon Enterprise and No Comrades Left. No Comrades Left Behind. He is Oh, I'm sorry. He is involved in prison reform. He's an activist, a youth mentor, an example that you can achieve anything in life with hard work and dedication. Thank you, Joseph, for joining us as well. I'm Amira Rose, your host for this evening. And the reason why we're here today is because it's so important to support, first of all, one another, period, and then to support our brothers behind the wall, the brothers who made it past the wall, and literature. Literature is so important today, and we must continue to self-educate ourselves, because we all know that we're not going to get the education the education needed, the truth needed in our educational systems. So Ivan, I want to start with you, because the concept of coming on tonight actually started with a post that I saw you make about a program entitled 100, please correct me, 100, what's the name?
Prisoner book literacy. So it's the 100 Prisoner Book Literacy Project, right? And it can be found on GoFundMe charity GoFundMe.com, and it's under our organization, the United Black Family Scholarship Foundation. Before I even get into all that, I just want to thank you for having me here today, introducing me to the brother Joseph and everybody on your team. I mean, I'm loving the energy here. And again, just
Yes.
seeing people who have, been incarcerated and got their stories out there is like so inspirational, because I mean, anybody on the streets who thinks about publishing a book, and I think we all do, it's a great feat. But to be able to do that from behind prison walls is just like tremendous, in terms of like, what we have to go through to get our word out there. And then, sometimes the persecution that we suffer from, speaking on things. So for me though, it was a process that began, I would say, maybe 12 years ago. And I remember I was sitting in the cell, and me being an old country boy from Oklahoma, I'm telling my cellie, who was from Richmond, California, about, all the things we do. And he was like, bro, you need to write a book about this shit, man. I'm like, for real? Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. And he like had like 5 books sitting under his bunk that he never published. He had game boards. I mean, it was just so much that he was doing. And I'm like, bro, why didn't you never publish that stuff? I'm like, man, that's your legacy, right? And so, he kept encouraging me. And eventually what happened, I found myself in a creative writing class in prison, around dudes who've been down like 30, 40 years at the time. And they were like stars. I mean, like stars on the streets, because they had people come in as far as Sweden. The warden was allowing groups of like 50 people to come in and do like this big orchestra sitting. And I'm like, damn, that's power, yo. I'm like, the pen and the paper, really? Because, we always talk about how the pen is mightier than the sword, and how powerful the word is. I mean, when we think about religion, we think about all that. I just got to thinking about like, man, let me put something down. So, that's how it got started for me.
When you
Yeah.
first started, what was
I
your
mean, I can keep,
go ahead.
well, go ahead. What was the question?
When you first started, did you know exactly what you were going to write about? Was it going to be a memoir? Was it going to be something else? What was your vision when you first put pen to paper?
So, the trip part about it, I'm sitting in class one day and I started writing. And I just told a little piece about my upbringing and what was happening at that time. I had a reporter from the San Francisco Chronicle who came up and did like a year-long visit with me. And you can Google that story. It's called Deadly Legacy. And she wanted to basically get a voice from the streets of Oakland, California, in terms of the brothers who had lived that life as killers, dope dealers, and pushers, right? And so she said my story was one of the ones that appealed to the interest of the Chronicle. And so while we was doing this interview, be mindful, this was like a year-long interview. She's visiting me at prison and stuff. And she asked me one day, she says, "Hey, if you had the opportunity to speak to the mayor of Oakland and make any recommendations or suggestions how to reduce the violence in the streets, what would you say to him?" And it was really I found it to be like a rhetorical question because that wasn't a question that you can just answer in one line. And it was like, so I would spend like the whole of the year talking to her about, culture. And this was stuff I was just recently learning because I was finding books on the tier, buying books about sociology, psychology, housing development, And so I started explaining all this stuff to her, and lo and behold, what happened, it became the basis of a book as I'm writing this stuff out. It's just like an outline. And I go into the creative writing class one day, and this is what really encouraged me. I read the first piece I ever wrote in my book to the class, and it was like, we had Mexicans in there, we had people, Cambodians, it was all type of brothers, and like I say, already renowned authors in there. And when I read it, it was a piece about me growing up and the lights being out, my mom struggling with addiction, and us having to use like candles and blankets to stay warm in the winter and all that type stuff. And it was like, yo, everybody in the class was like, man, bro, I can relate to that. And everybody started talking, right? It was a conversation started. And they was like, man, we had to go through that too in El Salvador or Mexico and I was just like, damn. And I seen the impact my words had at that moment, and it only encouraged me. So from that moment forward, I put my head down on the grind. And I remember like every day the CO used to follow by my cell, and he'd be like, man, what the hell is you doing in there? I come by 3 o'clock in the morning and you in there at the damn table. What are you doing? I said, man, I'm writing a book. And he was like, okay, what are you doing with it? He was like, so what do you plan on doing with it? I said, man, I don't know, man. I'm just putting my words right now because I feel I need to tell this story. I feel I need to get this out there in terms of somebody to listen to. And that's how it started. And I didn't know what it would turn into at first. And as I continued to write it, I had like essays, and it was pieces of essays, and I was putting together. It was stuff that I was writing about, Larry Hoover and Little D and all the big fit factors in Oakland. It was stuff that I was writing about, uh, the 1949 Housing Act and how it created like the Brittany Greens and the Hunter Points and the Jordan Downs and all these major housing complexes. And so when I put it all together, this was my first book, of course. I came up with Domestic Genocide, which was the institutionalization of society. And next thing I know, it was like I'm talking about institutions. And I started getting letters from professors and stuff talking about, hey, we seen something on Facebook about your book. We would like you to do a lecture. Where can we purchase copies at? And I was just like, wow, here I am today, starting with like 60 followers on Facebook and got 35,000 now. Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
love for that. Now, we're talking about that first book that you
Thanks.
started writing, but I believe you now have, is it 5 books published?
Four. Four.
4. What are the
Yeah.
titles of each
Yeah.
book and what
So
are they about?
so the first book was just like that was like so the funny thing about when you write, you want to show the world that you're smart, right? And you get caught up in all these big words and stuff. So fortunately, I had brothers on the yard that was telling me like, bro, dumb that shit down, so everybody in the neighborhood can understand what you're talking about. And so my first book was Domestic Genocide. And what I spoke to was the impact of American institutions and the cultures that come from those institutions in terms of like music, in terms of crime and violence, in terms of housing, education, and even the criminal justice system or injustice system, as we say. I mean, I go in on that. It's like 366 pages of 7 years of gas. And I quoted like 300 and some sources. I worked with some Harvard professors, the late renowned John Aaron, who was a former prisoner himself and became like the leading scholar in criminal justice and set up the whole Project Rebound project. And he's very renowned. My second book was it was a fictional book. I wanted to write something that got away from all that academic stuff and kind of touch the brothers in the hood who was reading that urban, but give them something of substance. So
Mm.
King was my second book. And it's a book about a young kid who's out there making decisions, trying to live in the footsteps of his father's legacy, who was a master mason, and he's getting caught up in the game in the streets and not knowing what he's part of already and how he was blessed into the game. And yet, at the end of the book, his uncle comes out of prison and he's finna start lacing him in the whole series. Uh, the third book was something that was really close to me in terms of the whole Black Lives Matter movement. So what I did was I went and hollered at the comrades on the yard, the brothers I had known over the years who were making power plays, and I asked all of them to give me a piece in terms of some poetry or an essay, really speaking to the issue of Black Lives Matter. And we kind of got down on that in terms of speaking about how we felt like the movement left us out of the equation in terms of the people who are locked up.
Mm.
We wasn't hearing nothing out there about the brutality that was happening with inside the prison system. And so we spoke to that, we wrote to that. And to be honest with you, I just hold up. I just
That's
got the
not
first
something I
copy
ever
in the
thought
mail the other
about.
day of the Black
That's
Lives.
something I never thought about, how the Black Lives Matter movement has not included y'all behind the wall in
Crazy.
their movement. Man, I'm almost like no words for the
Yeah,
thought
so
because
we
I
went in on
haven't
that.
even, yeah. Let's see that book
I
again.
mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, right? Because you got to think about we're talking about police brutality, and yet we just
Right.
seen on film the other day kinetic justice in Alabama, and the whole aftermath of that, blood everywhere, and it's like, okay, people, what y'all think is happening behind these walls? If they shooting
Yeah.
people in the street in broad daylight, no camera, what the hell y'all think happening behind these walls where there ain't no
Right.
cameras? And if
Right.
you want to be real about where the struggle starts, the struggle always starts behind the walls. I'm talking about all the political figures, all the factors in terms of who've been leading these movements, who are the political prisoners from the 1960s and 70s. These brothers have kept it pushing, from behind prison walls to the streets. And so when you think about Black Lives Matter, and we open up with a essay in the book me and several brothers wrote, and we're talking about you can't talk about police terrorism without talking about judicial terrorism. You can't talk about judicial terrorism without talking about economic terrorism. So when you start kicking
Yes.
and thinking about all these different how they're connected, the police issue ain't even the tip of the iceberg. It's the institution itself and what's happening behind these closed doors. So we put together like 130 pages of essays and poetry on it, speaking about it, to let people know. And the title of this, and it's on Amazon too, is My Comrade's Thoughts on Black Lives Matter, a collection of
Mm.
essays and poetry. So
Beautiful.
my
Beautiful.
fourth book, and that's
Yeah.
the one I just recently, yeah, my fourth book that I just recently published was a short memoir, and it was entitled Mayhem, Murder, and Magnificence. And so, the trip part about it, so when I get into this book writing thing and, people asking me questions, well, how is it you landed back in prison for a second time on a murder? This is my second time coming back on a second charge of capital murder. Once in Oklahoma, I beat a death penalty case, came out in 36 months. 24 months later, I'm in a trap house in Oakland. Shit get funky, and you know how the story go. I wound up with a life sentence without the possibility of parole because I'm eating on another cat's block. And so it's like cats was asking me, people asking like, yo, son, how is it that you ain't learning your lesson and all that? And then, my auntie hit me with some shit. And I'm gonna keep it short on this one because I actually got something I'm doing here in a couple of days, another event. But it hit me like my auntie tell me, she say, son, you gotta quit going around motherfuckers you go after her. And I just thought about it. I'm out here, like an eagle flying with chickens and shit. And I'm saying in the most humblest way because I'm trying to bless my brothers and pull me up. But we know in them streets, motherfuckers don't want to see you come up, period. You know what I'm saying? They want to cut your wings off. So, I speak
Right.
about that. I speak about, my former gang ties and stuff and how I had to cut a lot of shit loose because, sadly, my first homicide was my best friend, my right hand man, it came in and robbed me on some bullshit. And so, I've had my battles in life with this. And so a lot of people's asked me throughout the course of my career as an author, um, yo, what's going on? What's your life story? Can you explain something to me? So I said, okay, look, man, I'm gonna give y'all 140 pages of it. And that's all I'm gonna give you for right now because my story ain't done. You hear what I'm saying? I said, I just want to let you know where I'm at and how I got here today in terms of perseverance, in terms of inspiration. And I'm going to tell you why I was built the way I was built and how I was built the way I was built. And that's what I do in this final book. I talk to the people in the community that I was raised by. And so we have some OGs that I come up underneath. And when I say OGs, I mean coverall, moonshine, selling country boys who was down there in the South getting it. Like Jesus say, you think we country niggas hee haw, but the money come back and forth like a seesaw. So, I'm speaking to all my mentors, my peers in the day who really gave me that game in terms of being a survivor out there in them streets and them jungles and how to stay breathing. And so what happened through this whole process from the first book to the fourth book, the first book was a blueprint. And the blueprint was something that eventually led to me establishing the United Black Family Scholarship Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to rebuilding the community from within the community. And when I say within the community, we got boots on the ground in prison. We up in here doing workshops, political. We writing, we getting these brothers' stories out there. We in the community talking to the trap stores about, becoming legitimate businessmen and the transition that we have to make and what we have to go through in order to make that transition. And so, that was something that was dear to me because that was my story, but it wasn't just my story in and of itself, as if to say it was unique. We know this story is something that I can go to New York and find. I can find it right there in Ohio. I can find it in the shot, and it's like I was telling people, if you don't understand how these institutions create these values that we subscribe to, you know what I'm saying, and how they control us instead of us controlling it, then we'll never be able to really break free of those chains of bondage and enslavement and all that type of stuff.
Right. Can you please describe a little bit the program, the 100 Prisoners Book Program, so that individuals know what it's about, why it's important to support it?
Yeah, so wow, so me writing, let me tell you, like, for me, writing opened up the world to me in a place where the world been closed off in prison. I was in maximum security for 17 years. I was locked down. It's 168 hours in a week. I was locked down 165 hours a week in the cell. And reaching out to the world, we got one phone call a month. And if you didn't have one of these phones to get on, it was a wrap. So you can imagine yo wanting to connect to the community. And so what I came up with after doing this and teaching workshops in prison for years and being part of workshops, I said, you know what? I'm thinking about the brothers on the yard that I met over the years who didn't have the resources to publish their books. And I'm talking about these brothers got 13 manuscripts under their bed. You know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking about the brothers who pushing a chair on the who pushing a broom on a chair for 25 years for pennies on a dollar, who ain't getting no type of royalty for the work they doing, ain't got no type of retirement. And so I'm thinking economically, okay, what can we do to change that? What can we do to give these brothers a sense of independence? So just thinking about my brothers up in here who writing, my brothers who up in here rapping, my brothers up in here who doing poetry. I said, check it out, dog. And I say, man, look, let's put this thing together to where we're going to start publishing these brothers' books. So, I hooked up with some folks, man. We put some GoFundMe's up. I mean, the GoFundMe we put up right now is just like around $800. But we had another one we put up. We brought in $1,700. And then I'm like, okay, we got something viable here. People want to hear our stories. And what's important about these stories, and this is the essence of the project, we have to control the narrative as to who we are as people. We can't allow the
Indeed.
system and the media to control who we are. Because the reality is, people who don't know me will look at the title and say, okay, you're a convicted murderer. But to my daughter, I'm her father. I'm the man that when she needs something, she call on and say, hey, daddy, I need this. I
Mhm.
need some help. Hey, pops, I got an issue with this dude out here and I need some advice. And I'm like, who you want? You want the Cosby daddy or you want the street daddy version? You know what I'm saying? And I have to give it that raw, right? And I'm like, okay, we need to put this down on some tabs. We need to write these books and get them out there because there's other sisters out there whose fathers is locked up that the world need to hear. There's other brothers out there whose mothers is locked up that the world need to hear. And I'm talking about they need to hear these stories, right? Because I can't explain how profound it's been when people, they tap into my story or I share other people's stories because, I work with universities and stuff like that. And I share these brothers' stories with the students. And the students come back, they say, okay, look, we had to tear up our term papers because that shit we got out the textbook ain't nothing like that raw y'all just gave us.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's what the project is for, is to put these brothers and sisters in a position where they got a royalty coming in, a standard royalty. Is to put them in a position to where they have a voice in the community to where they can take their stories and people can learn from their stories by reading them. And more importantly, it's about legacy. We have to be mindful of the legacies that we leaving behind because when I'm dead and gone, this still gonna be around. This is gonna be a
Indeed.
testament of my legacy. You hear me? This is gonna be a testament of my legacy. And this is what I tell people all the time, man. This right here, this is the physical. And when you sit in the cage for 20 years and you watch people dying, hanging themselves, overdosing, you realize we ain't got but a short time in this world. And so, we start thinking about, hey, what is the testimony gonna be when they looking over my casket and talking about my life? It's gonna be the dude who killed two people and that's all he left in the world was damage in the community, or is it gonna be the dude who came back and rebuilt the community after he went through all that shit? Yeah.
And so all the books can be the link that you can post on the Night of Poetry page. All those books will be listed that are available to purchase, or does it go by donation? How does it exactly work? Excuse me, I'm having mask
So
issues here.
look, people people can go online and Amazon and buy the books, but I tell everybody, I say, yo, tap in on our GoFundMe, make a $20 donation, and we'll send you a copy of any one of the books that we got currently published. Or if you become a sustaining donor at $25 a month, we'll make sure that when we start publishing these 100 books, you will have them for the cost of print. So take, for example, this book retails for $11.95 on Amazon. And what we do is for our sustaining donors is we give it to them for $3 because that's all it takes for us to print it and maybe another dollar to ship it. You did. And so we ask for that commitment in exchange for this VIP club, you can say, to get firsthand story of these books before they even published. And and we can even get the authors to autograph them. I think that's important too because brothers up in here need that recognition in terms of
Yes.
knowing that it counts out there and somebody got something out of they piece.
So what I would like to do is, whenever you have a book available on the Night of Poetry page, I would like to promote in each book every month, every day. I want to support everybody. I want to put the link up there so that the donations can go to the GoFundMe or, you know, if that's what you prefer, I definitely want to do that in support of every single book that is written and published from anybody behind that wall. It's important that we support, you know, like I said, each other, but especially those behind the wall. And it's, you know, to spotlight them is an amazing program that I see that you have. So we have a question. I'm going to take one question from our viewers.
Thank you.
And the question for you, Joseph, or I'm sorry, for you, Ivan, is how do you hope that your work will inspire other people?
Good question. Great
Well,
question.
you know, the funny thing about that is I'm actually seeing how, like, as I said, with the college students tearing up their papers, because, you know, people have this concept about who you are based off a stereotype. And so what I'm hoping that our work, our writings will inspire people to look beyond the surface and see the human beings, see the people who are capable of error, but are also redeemable and are able to do amazing things. Only the world will quit with the labeling and stereotyping. So most importantly, that's like the forefront of everything. Like I said earlier, controlling the narrative. That's how we want to inspire people. We want people to say,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? That dude may have did something terrible, you know, but the reality is he's not his act. That's not who he may have a lapse of judgment or something happened, you know, that we cannot explain for, that we wasn't present to understand, especially when we know how the system is in terms of just raw dogging the motherfucker. But to inspire people, I definitely want people to be able to, you know, get the sense of needing to look beyond the surface of the narrative.
Excuse me for one moment, guys. Okay. Sorry, my battery's about to die. I apologize. Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate you joining us tonight. We're now going to move over to Joseph. And Joseph, I want you to describe your time and what inspired you to write your book, From the Sandblock to the Cell Block.
Before I go on, right, I initially came out here to promote my book, right, until I met Ivan. And I only been out 100 days after
How
doing
many?
22 years. I only been out 100 days after
Mm.
doing 22 years of incarceration. So I'm really connected to Ivan in a sense where it transcends and is bigger than me right now, right? So I want to take the time out to say, I know how hard it is to strategically get your voice out for the world to understand your story. And I commend you for not one book, not two books, not three books, but four books. And I'm greatly appreciative that I met you today, man. Right? Because you made my story that more important, right? And vice versa,
Indeed.
right? The
Indeed.
fact is this, that me just leaving prison after doing 22 years, and I love the fact that Ivan is so raw and uncut, and the way you express yourself in a sense, it is important for people to hear us, right? And I've been out here 100 days. I did 22 years. I was released in September of 2020. I'm 42 years old, from Brooklyn, New York. And I went to prison for attempt murder and armed bank robbery, in which I was sentenced to 22 years consecutive, two different sentences. So upon my time in prison, I didn't understand the concept of prison industrial complex. I didn't understand that they made billions of dollars off of us. I didn't know that. And I'm sure the vast majority of the people listening to us right now had no idea that they made billions of dollars off of the inmates that's incarcerated, as well as the people that's on parole and probation. Don't forget those, right? So this is a whole cycle of things that they keep from the people because the media doesn't tell you what really goes on inside these prison walls. They don't tell you
Not at
about
all.
Ivan, you know? He's a convicted murderer. He sat here and told us all he is convicted for murder. But when his daughter is on the phone with him, she see him as daddy.
Daddy.
Right? Are y'all hearing me out there? Even the most horrific situations in life that we see and is projected when he said about the narrative, the stories that they tell you about these people. We don't know the circumstances. We don't know the situations. But we automatically say, hey, you're wrong. But what this man is doing right here, giving a voice to the voiceless inside of a box, I pale into comparison to you, brother.
Yes.
And I'm not selfish because I came here to promote me. Now I'm here to promote you.
When I came across his post the other day about the book, like I immediately was like, this needs to be told. This needs to be shared. Every single one of those books, every single one of his books needs to be purchased. That GoFundMe, $20, really, that's a fast food meal. You know what I'm saying? That you don't even need. Put that money to somewhere, to somebody, to this program that truly is needed, that truly needs to be supported. Like this, like I contacted both Joseph and Ivan like 2 days ago, because 2 days ago is when I saw that post and I was like, this needs to be told right now.
It's
Like
immediate. And the reason why this story, and I'm so immersed in it right now, I'm very emotional about it because I didn't expect all of this. I came here to talk about me, right? But what I want to share with the whole world, since I've been out here in these 100 days, all these videos I've been making, all of these different images and imageries of positive and love and unconditional respect for the world, right? Is because it's people like him and people like myself, because I'm an extension of him. I am what he is on the streets now. And you have to understand, we're going back into the communities. We're going back into these neighborhoods, convicted bank robbers, convicted murderers, right? And we are trying. We're doing things that's profound that people don't really understand how hard it is to do 22 years in prison and come out here with a book or start my own business and work 3-4 jobs just to make it happen. People are not really understanding the psychology of that, as well as the fact of writing a book inside of a prison, right? So, but my book, From the Sandbox to the Cell Block, is a story of struggle, oppression, and redemption. And I broke it down in them 3 perspectives because at first I started off in the struggle, which is Brooklyn, Brownsville, New York. And our slogan is, everybody knows it's in Brooklyn, never ran, never will, right? So that concept has been disseminated in all of our minds since babies. Never run, you never will, right? So what that means, you're a gangster off top because you believe in this concept, right? So that forced reality automatically makes us accessible to the penitentiary system. We go through the juvenile systems, which I did. I went through foster homes, group homes, every type of institution you could think of. I've been through it. So I speak from experience, you know what I mean? So at the age of 19, I went to prison until the age of 41, which I was released 100 days ago, like I told y'all. But my brother was the inspiration behind this book. His name is Natural Langdon. And in 2017, he was like, hey, yo, bro, your story is very deep. You've been through a lot. You did a lot. And I think people will be able to relate to you if you just come out here and just tell them, what happened to you. So I agreed to that. And in the process of that, in 2017, I wrote the book, and I started writing more books, and then I wound up having 3 books, and I never wrote a book before. So I was like, wow, how would the people react to this? Like, all I wanted to do was explain to people from the beginning. That's why I say from the sandbox, because if you come from urban America, or not just urban America, it could be, white America that's poor in as far as economically, right? We all relate to each other in that sense, right? So if you come from these areas, when you're a baby, you hear gunshots, you see crack addicts, you see dope fiends, you see these things as a kid in that sandbox. So it's not like the abnormal becomes normal to you. So I addressed that in my book, how I was the transition from the streets to prison was easy for me, because where I come from, it looked like a prison. There's cops everywhere, there's barbed wire everywhere. Everybody in prison from my neighborhood is in there, so it's like a homecoming. It's not like it's not like a foreign land, and that's sad. But with that being said, in my book, I speak about so many different topics because I felt it was important to speak about more than just the average story about dropping a soap or the light-skinned guy or everybody getting stabbed and all of that. So I wanted to speak about how guys in prison fall in love, to get married. We meet ladies in prison. They support us. I speak about the Stockholm Syndrome, why guys go back and forth to prison. If you know the conditions of prison is horrific, why would you keep going back 4 times, right? I speak on that. I speak about our mothers and how at the end of the day, when we're young, we don't listen to them, we don't respect them, then we find ourselves in prison, and guess who's the only one really there? Your mother, right? I speak about the violence as well, you know, because I did a lot of violence in prison because I had to survive. I didn't do it because I was a sociopath, anything like that. I done it because I wanted to make it back home to freedom. I speak about tribalism, which is like gangs and things of that nature. I speak about the prison industrial complex as far as how they make money off of it in great detail. And I paint a picture of how the oppression, it leads to mental health problems. And when I speak about mental health problems, you know what I'm saying? Because that's like a real big topic for me because, you know, you have people who are born with mental health problems, right? And that's something that they can't control because, unfortunately, through genetics, they have some type of PTSD or some type of bipolar or OCD, whatever the case may be. But in the sense of how we get it, it's different because it's forced on us. Our mental health problems are forced on us. So it's not the same, but it is the same because it's a universal problem, right? So I speak about that a lot because you got to understand a lot of us is going back to your communities, y'all. We're going back to date your daughters. We're going back to date your sons. We're going out there back to be with your families. We are coming back to these streets. And if you see guys coming back to these streets with ideas that's profound that y'all might not understand right then and there, you still have to support us for the simple fact that it's guys that's inside these prisons that we communicate with that see the process and they say, hey, Joseph P. Langdon made it. I'm going to start writing me a book now. I seen how the audience and how the people embraced this guy that robbed people, that shot people and did all these foul things when he was a juvenile and stabbed people in prison, but he came out with a new attitude and the experiment that changed the world, you know? So when them guys see that I'm successful, they start preparing inside prison. They don't wait till they come out. They start preparing like, yo, this is what he did when he was in there. He waited 4 years. 4 years. Oh, yeah, I'm going to start writing my book. Oh, I'm going to start perfecting my skill. That's why it's important for the village to invest in us so the people behind us and the people in front of us can see that, hey, we can make mistakes, but we still come out on top. And that's what my book represents all the way around the board. That's what I represent all the way around the board. Every time y'all see me on Facebook, every time you see me on Instagram, anytime you see me post something, it's for the greater cause of letting y'all know that the prison industrial complex is not broken. The system is not broken. It's over 2.3 million people inside those prisons. 2.3 million. Whether on prison, parole, or on probation. And I ain't tell y'all this part, y'all. This is going to drive y'all crazy. Look what I'm going through right now. I'm homeless. I write a book. I started a business, right? Because I don't want to sell crack. I don't want to sell dope. Those things that I know how to do, and I know how to do right now, right? But I choose not to do it because I say, you know what? That ain't gonna give me number 20 more years in prison. I'm gonna stay down till I come up. You feel me? And I get up here every day and I tell a positive message, even though I'm going through a negative situation, you know? Because I believe more in what I'm saying and then what I'm going through. And it's important for me. That's why I ran out of prison. 100 days, y'all. Do you hear me? You know how hard it is to write a book, put it together, make a deal with Amazon, put it out for y'all to hear it and read it and see the reality. And I put all the black and white evidence in there to back up what I'm saying. You know how hard that is? And have no money and it be going for 22 years? You know how hard that is, y'all? I don't think y'all understand. That's why I come up here every day to remind y'all. Even if y'all don't buy my book, the message is this. Support the people that's in prison and support the people that's coming out of prison because guess what? We are the majority coming out of prison back into your neighborhoods. And you have to prepare us and we have to know that we have things set up for us so we don't have to go back to robbing and killing people because jobs is turning people down. I've been turned down for 3-4 jobs, but guess what? I keep going. I got 2 jobs now. I keep going. I don't let nothing stop me. Because I know and understand that the vision is bigger than just me. And I got a lot of people watching what's going on in prison. And they depending on me to represent for the guys behind. I'm out here with the same female I was with when I was in prison right now. I ain't representing for my comrades who get stereotyped, who are told that they are nothing, that they can't be nothing. I'm here to represent for my brother right there and for the brothers y'all can't see or hear. That's why we do this. I ain't write no book to come up off on y'all. I wrote the book so I can explain what's going on inside these prisons to y'all, what's going on with your sons, because it happened to me. It happened to him, and it can happen to you.
And that's what needed. That story needs to get all the ways out. You know, the truth of y'all, as we stated earlier, the media does not publish the truth. They don't talk about the truth. They don't talk about what goes on behind those walls. Y'all books are important. You know, the story is needed. And if you guys can see, Joseph's book is available on Amazon, Kindle, and softback. In softback, from the sandbox to the cell block. Support. We got to support one another.
Please,
so I wanted to discuss one of your programs, which I believe it is called No Comrades Left Behind. Can you please discuss that a little bit?
Well, No Comrades Left Behind. Before I left prison, y'all, see, all of this I'm doing, this is not a freestyle. And what I mean by that is this was carefully planned. Before I walked out of prison, I said to myself, I have to give these people an epic experience of prison, right? And I know a lot of people don't want to see prison in their face like that, right? Especially the ones that's doing dirt, right? That's why they try to ignore it. But you can't ignore it because it's in your face, right? And the reality is this. When you look on No Comrades Left Behind channel TV, and you see them guys with them trays in their hand, and you see them guys, white, black, Puerto Rican, I made sure I put every different type of face up there because it's not a black problem. It's not a white problem. It's a what? Class problem. Right?
Indeed.
Even though there's more black people in prison than anybody, so that is a problem. However, at this time right now, it's just a big business now. Private institutions, things of that nature. So I came out here raw. I didn't wait no year or 2 years to tell y'all that story. I still got jail on my chest. I still have nightmares. I got PTSD. I'm still bugging out, trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay my bills. Right? The everyday problems that everybody else out there got. And guess what? I only been out 100 days and I got them problems. So I'm at a disadvantage. But my advantage is this. I'm gonna keep going. And I need y'all to rock with me. And rock with him. And rock with us. Rock with the brothers in prison. Remember this. All the greatest leaders that we could go back and look at was in prison. If you're a Muslim, the Prophet Muhammad, he had Hamza with him. He was a warrior. If you're a Christian, you had Moses. You had so many different representations of people that you would think couldn't become great. And guess what? They became great. Malcolm X, he was in prison. He was red, Detroit Red, before he became Malcolm X or Malik El Shabazz. He was dirty red, Detroit Red. And they ain't give up on him. So don't give up on us, especially when we're doing great things and educating the people. But my channel, No Comrades Left Behind, subscribe, share, and give it to your family, man. If you got sons, you got daughters, you got teenagers, they need to see that. They really need to see these dudes' faces up in there. They're in a box. Really, this ain't no fake jail. This ain't that fake stuff these guys get on YouTube and tell you all these jail stories. Everything I tell y'all, prove it, man. Because guess what? Y'all my people. And I ain't here to trick y'all. I'm here to show y'all facts. And the facts is this. They got a jail cell waiting on y'all.
Yes, they do. That's what they're expecting, you know. And I think too, as a mother, these are books that we need to, you know, share with our young men, our young women, not just men, because our girls are ending up behind bars as well. And they need to know the reality. Like, it's not, you're not getting locked up, you know, your homies ain't sending all this money and you just ain't kicking it up in there behind them bars, you know, rapping and on Facebook Live. No, that's not the reality. That's not the harsh truth of the reality.
Can I say one thing, sister, before I don't want to minimize the importance of our women, right? And I speak about that in my book so much. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. This ain't just some old thug jail story. I speak about Angela Davis. I speak about Asata Shakur. I speak about Elaine Brown. These are the women that really like helped me tap into that empathy that I have now. They're actually tatted on my body. That's how much I believed in them, right? So when you read my book, I'm explaining to y'all how a 19-year-old who knew nothing but street stuff was able to evolve, even though everything was against me. Every single thing was against me. Even the people who I thought can believe in me had no reason to believe in me.
Right.
Great reasons, because I didn't prove nothing in life. So I was able to go inside this prison where I was doomed from the beginning, change my way of thinking, even though I had to still survive until the day I walked out of prison, and give you this story and really stand on what I'm saying, and every day consistently try to represent for myself and brothers like Ian. And I can't subtract him from the story because I just left him 100 days ago.
Right. Right.
I'm still chained to him. Right? So my story is his story, and together, he and I and everybody else, we can make it happen, y'all. I'm telling y'all,
Yes.
I gotta start reading again. When I left the street, everybody read. Now this world, now everybody want to text, and you have to exercise your brain just like your body. It is the greatest tool that you have is your brain. Information. Even if you're not planning on going to jail, you should still know what's going on inside them jails, because you might have a nephew or a son or whoever.
It's a prison out here, though, so it doesn't matter, you know what, at the end of the day, it's a prison there, it's a prison out here too, you know. We all battling a battle every single day, different types. At the end of the day, though, I want to thank both of y'all for coming and joining me tonight, especially on such short notice, but I just had to get this out there. And don't forget, I'm going to put the links for both of your books, the programs on the Night of Poetry Facebook page. Find us on Facebook. I want to actually add Gina with us from Epic. She has a few things to say. We have she has an event coming up on February 20th. Gina, can you explain that event, please?
Yes, I will. Hey, everybody. I'm Gina, the president of Epic, ensuring parole for incarcerated citizens here in the state of Ohio. We are a nonprofit 501c3 fighting for fair laws and treatment within the penal system. We've been building a national coalition with a lot of great organizations and comrades from the inside. And first and foremost, before I mention the event, I just want to say, Ivan, thank you extremely so much for being here tonight. We know the risks that you guys have to take in order to shed light on what's really going on the inside. And we appreciate it, honestly. Just like Brother Kinetic, if it wasn't for our good comrade Shaw, we would have never, ever been able to put that out into the public's eye. You know, people think that, you know, because people are in prison, they're living life. That's not true. So I do appreciate you guys coming out and showing the real business about what's really, truly going on behind them walls. We appreciate you. Joseph, we're going to talk. We're going to talk. And it's funny because my husband and my slogan, I've known him since we were 12 years old. It's from the sandbox to our casket drop. So I already got a connection with you. I'm just saying. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. And definitely, we will definitely be putting your guys' books out there, promoting them. I already told them earlier, I will put it up on our websites. We definitely are going to have some support coming your guys' way. I would like to get you guys plugged into our No Static Radio episodes we've been doing. Would love for you guys to come in and shed your knowledge there as well. That's an open platform, bigger than this. So, you know, I got your guys' backs. Okay, so February 20th is National Supporter Prisoner Day. Epic and a few other organizations in coalition are partnered up with a window campaign. It's display your pain, your PAIN, and your window pain, PANE. We're basically asking for those that are affected by incarceration to decorate your window panes, whether you have to just simply write on there in mass incarceration, National Supporter Prisoner Day, electrical tape down the windows like bars for like cells, poster boards, whatever. I'm actually going to do mine up tonight and have a picture posted tomorrow if you guys need an idea. But let's fill our windows up. Let's fill these communities up with windows full of in mass incarceration and show the real effects of what a mass incarceration does, not just to us, but let's show the communities. Let's, get more people involved. We have to start putting resources and programs, not just in the prisons, but outside too. We have to start from the bottom up. And it starts out here first. We got to stop letting these slave catchers catch our children. They just want to keep them incarcerated for most of their lives, and we're really big on free in the 13th. A lot of people don't realize this, slavery is still real. It reads it in the 13th Amendment. There's an exception clause. We just need to start bringing awareness. So I'm hoping that this window campaign we have worldwide support. Send your pictures into our email. It's epicxteam20@gmail.com. Go to our website, www.epicxteam.org. You can contact us that way, but please get these pictures in and make sure we get those windows decorated. You can get chalk marker. You can get paint, window paint marker, Staples if you have a Staples, Michael's craft store, wherever. Let's decorate these windows up and have them decorated for a week to bring reality to the mass incarceration.
No doubt.
I know I'm working on mine, Gina. I don't know how artistic I am, but I'm working on it.
Hey, Ian,
again,
I need to get with you, Ian. Make sure you get my number, Ian.
Yeah,
we'll definitely make that
Brandon,
connection.
we hooked up, man. I definitely got to tap in. Yeah.
I got your back, bro.
Already.
He's already good in my book with the White Sox hat. I can't even. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, guys. Again, I just also want to remind you guys that we have a poetry show on Saturday. It's for the grown folks. Don't mind that. They'll come have fun with us on Sunday. And then next Sunday, we have a poetry show celebrating Black History Month. So please join us for that as well. On the Facebook page, Night of Poetry, we have 2 events coming up. Support the window campaign, support the books. Joseph, again, thank you. I appreciate that. All the love. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Please support the books. Please share this. Prayers out to Texas. We see what's going on in Texas. And to my brothers, Connecticut Justice, Fahamavu, Ethan Moore, we're still thinking about y'all. We're still praying for you, and we're still fighting for you. The fight has just begun. Have a blessed night, everybody.
Peace.